Louis Riddick and Tim Hasselbeck join Jeff and I in the football conversation here. And Louis, I want to start there. How about the awe factor? You're a young player on the Buccaneers, and Tom Brady walks into the locker room, and now he's my teammate and my quarterback. What is that like?
Oh, it's big time. Look, I mean, when you are much younger than other players on your football team, and you've grown up in high school, maybe even gone through college, and you've watched these guys play, and then you finally get to see them, and you see them strapping on their pads the same way you do, and going out on the practice field and conducting themselves in that, in the extreme professional way that they do. I mean, you tend to kind of sit there and just stare at them. Look, I remember as even a veteran player, going out to Oakland and playing with the Raiders and seeing Tim Brown, who I had played against when I was at Pitt and he was at Notre Dame, and me just sitting there going, man, that's Tim freaking Brown right there, the Heisman Trophy winner, the Tim Brown. And and it was funny because I remember just thinking, well, why am I staring at him like this? But I mean, so I get that. And then quickly, once you start getting into the different periods of practice and you start really competing, it kind of all dissipates and that leaves you. But I understand what Bruce is saying. I mean, that's the cool thing about sports, and that's the cool thing about being around guys like that. You want to be around people that elevate your preparation, elevate your level of play on the field, and that you have a little bit of an all factor towards. You want that. I mean, that just makes everyone else want to be better. And Tampa Bay is going to benefit from that. I'm just telling you, all those guys are going to practice harder, play harder, prepare better, because it's Tom Brady, man. He has an Aston Martin car designed for him. I mean, come on.
Tim Hasselbeck, you were telling me an interesting story this morning about another guy they call the GOAT.
Yeah, well, listen, I remember when the Seattle Seahawks in 2004 signed Jerry Rice. I'm in the league at the time. My brother is the starting quarterback for the Seahawks. He calls me. He's like, can you believe, we just signed Jerry Rice. I mean, you talk about the awe factor. You're a quarterback, and even though he's 42 years old at the time, you just signed a player that people said was not only the best wide receiver ever to play, but maybe the best football player to ever play. It was almost like he was giddy, he couldn't believe it. And Louis is right. After a while, now you're just playing football, but you weren't watching him necessarily, and this will be the case for Brady and some of the young Buccaneers players, that you weren't watching them in high school and in college. I mean, but you were also watching them in grade school.
That's my audio,
that's the difference in age and the respect and all of that. So I think between, that awe factor, yes, but then Lewis's point about it making everyone better. My brother also told me in Seattle what happened is all those young wide receivers that wanted to head to the locker room, right after practice, they all of a sudden started sticking around and watch what Jerry did after practice and try to do the things that he was doing because he was the best. And so that's how people are going to respond to Brady.
How about the other piece of this, Jeff, if I come to you here, on the idea that Arians is bringing up that, look, we're not going to change the offense that 21 guys know because one guy doesn't know it, but that guy is the quarterback and he is Tom Brady. How's that going to work?
Well, Greeny, that was actually the plan going into this. Bruce Arians recognized right away and said to Tom Brady on the outset of the signing, hey, look, we can do this one of two ways. You could learn my offense, and we don't have to teach all these other guys it. You're the greatest of all time, and you have the best recall of anybody I've ever met, you and Peyton Manning. Or we could make them all learn your offense. Which one makes the most sense to you? And Tom Brady was immediately on board with the idea of learning that offense. And to the point that everybody else has been making here, Tom Brady in that locker room is also a very disarming human. When you meet him, yes, there is an awe factor, but he will immediately disengage that and make sure that all things are good with you. And I think that's going to go a long way in this atmosphere as well.
Just a super quick, because I just have 30 seconds here. Tim Hasselbeck, if he's talking about terminology and stuff. He's not talking about what plays they're going to run. He's not talking about no risk it, no biscuit kind of stuff for a 43-year-old quarterback, right?
Right. Yeah, look, they're going to do a lot of, stuff conceptually that Brady's always done. And so, it is about learning the terminology. And I think we make a big deal of it sometimes, and it is hard. But just look around. Like Peyton Manning learned a new offense. He did fine. Brett Favre went to the Jets and was running a new offense. He did just fine. It's going to happen. Peyton Manning, had plenty of success. I would expect Tom Brady to do the same thing. One guy learning new terminology is a lot easier than, as Bruce said, 20-something guys learning a brand new terminology.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.